Hopefully won't be here all night. Yeah, let's see. Close set. We'll do the close section first. Yeah, I'll do that. Let me- We're now reconvening in open session. What's that? Okay. Well, we'll do the. Okay. The acting attorney, Mr. John Giffen, will be reporting on closed session.
Thank you. The board did hold its closed session. It heard from legal counsel of the items on the agenda and took no reportable action.
Okay, thank you very much. There's some new people here that were not here earlier, about, what, 2 or 3 hours ago when we started the afternoon. There were some concerns raised in the absence of public comment during the agenda item to elect the 2013 FORA board officers at the January board meeting. Public comment is extremely important to the process as in compliance with the Brown Act. What happened at the last meeting was a misunderstanding about whether public comment would be taken on individual nominations or the item as a whole. In order to resolve any outstanding issues, the January elections have been considered void, and we'll be repeating the elections later on, in fact, very shortly now. Supervisor Potter is still technically the board chair, however, he's out of town, so I'm currently filling in for him as my capacity as vice chair. Okay, I would ask Director Gail Morton if she would please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you, Gail. Okay, Michael, we have some acknowledgments, announcements, or correspondence.
None today, sir.
Okay. Next on the agenda is the consent agenda. Any member of the board wish to pull any items for question discussion? Saying none out to the public. Any member of the pub? I'm sorry, Gail, please.
Just on the approval of the minutes, you have Dave Brown appearing, and it should be Gail Morton.
Okay, substitute Gail Morton for Dave Brown on the minutes. Understand. Anybody else from the board? Out to the public. Any members of the public wish to pull any items for corrections, questions? Okay, if not, then back to the board. I'd entertain a motion, please.
Sorry, there's just one other thing. It says Council Member Burnett instead of Mayor Burnett. I don't know if he minds, but
okay, we didn't want to demote.
He is a council member.
Yes, yes. So we'll make the second change of Mayor Burnett rather than Councilmember Burnett. Okay, do I have I'd entertain a motion? Okay, we have a motion to approve the consent agenda with the 2 items that were noted. Do I have a second? And the motions by Mayor Rubio, and the second is by Director Oglesby. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much. Okay, we have now old business, elect the 2013 Fort Ord Reuse Authority officers. Let me just find out where this thing is here. Okay, as stated earlier, we'll be conducting the election for the 2013 FORA officers, which form the executive committee. The board has received a report from the nominating committee at its last meeting. It's provided once again, but does require repeating. I'll ask Bill Camp to summarize, and then we'll entertain public comment. After the public comment period is closed, I will entertain a motion to approve the nominating committee recommendation and/or receive nominations from the floor or the board. If an election is required, the election will be held by roll call vote. Bill, you want to go ahead and summarize, please?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I was asked to do this role of the nominating committee chair. I'm not sure I'd want to volunteer to do it again. And I missed the last full board meeting, so I missed all the excitement. What I'd like to do is summarize our process in the nominating committee because I think it leads into the decisions we have before us. We were asked to consider each of the 5 positions for the nomination. Our process, we were given a guide sheet, but fundamentally chose to be a little bit more basic. We looked at each of the 5 positions in turn, not as a slate. It was suggested if we had a slate, we could vote on the slate and be done with it instantly. We took each of the positions one at a time because it would have not been possible for the nominating committee to have a slate prior to coming into the room. We had one person in the public there. We took public comment, and we proceeded to go through the 5 positions. The interesting part about it is a large part of our makeup of the executive committee is determined by the master resolution in a fairly specific way. In particular, there was a question about rotations. It is specified in the master resolution, and I think I provided that document the last time, that the second chair goes to first chair, second vice chair goes to first vice chair goes to chair. And by tradition and implied in the master resolution is that the current chair moves then to the past chair role on the committee, and that takes up a lot of the slots on our executive committee. The other factors we were considering is some degree of geographical diversity in all the positions, and we had that in mind as we're going through the process. So anyway, the rotation per the master resolution determines 3 of the 5 seats. Then we had 2 other seats to look at. We had, at that point, the member at large, and our serving member at large was also present. There were no other considerations at that point. Mayor Pendergrass was nominated, and we forwarded his name in nomination for the role of member at large. And I know there were additional discussions at the board meeting last time. For the second vice chair position, we did have 2 names submitted, and those names were Mayor Rubio and Supervisor Parker. And on our vote, and it was an oral vote, it was a 3-to-1 recommending Mayor Rubio, and the situation there was county already had Supervisor Potter as the past chair, and looking at diversity of representation by geography, we were looking at it being appropriate that Seaside be represented on the executive committee, because if you look at who are the major land use jurisdictions, it just seems appropriate that we have that representation from Seaside. So that was what came from the nominating committee. For chair, Mayor Edelin; for first chair, Mayor Pro Tem O'Connell; for second vice chair, it was the two names came forward on a 3-to-1 vote for Mayor Rubio and for Supervisor Potter, and for member at large, it was Mayor Pendergrass. Those were the nominations that came from the committee. This could be proposed as a slate. It was not a unanimous slate at that point, and my personal recommendation would be that we just simply go through each of the chairs one at a time on a nomination basis, starting with the nominations, at least that came from the nominating committee. And this is certainly at the discretion of the chair and the pleasure of the board procedurally, but that we just take them one at a time, go through a nominating process, and after public comment, and see what the results are. Thank you.
Bill, thanks for an excellent explanation on that, very thorough. Okay, this time we're going out to the public, and we will receive public comment. Any member of the public wish to address the subject of elections before the board at this time?
Hi, good afternoon, Jan Schreiner. I appreciate that you are making an effort to redo this election, not only for the lack of public comment before, but for the effort with the secret ballot. I like that you're going to be doing a roll call vote. That makes a lot of sense, and I really appreciate that. Also, I wanted to ask in the paper today, I know this is a little bit off topic to start, but it has to do with the executive committee nominations. The base reuse plan apparently was edited in March 2010. There's some controversy around those edits now. Who were the executive committee members then? Who is the chair of FORA then? And are they the same officers as previously proposed in January? I would like to recommend that you reconsider, everyone reconsider the nomination for Jane Parker, because she does represent a much larger population than some of the people who have been nominated. She has an extensive length of time on FORA and a record of proven leadership when it comes to recommendations for deeper analysis of any situation. In particular, I'm thinking of the regional desal plan. She was the first to question the financial plan and the lack of. She also was one of the first to question the budget process for the ORD community. People came on board after she showed she had the skills and the leadership for analysis, objective and important for our communities. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Any other member of the public wish to address the board?
Thank you, Chair. I'm Jason Campbell, a resident of Seaside. I wanted to speak about the election that happened last time. I was a little surprised. I think my understanding is it's not only the fact that the public wasn't able to speak on the elections, but also that the vote was held in secret. I think the Brown Act says you have to have an open voting process here so the public knows how you vote. So I think that's another important correction that was made today. At the last meeting, Jane Parker was nominated to be on the executive board. I believe she was running against Ralph Rubio, and I'd like to support her election to the executive committee. It would go a long way to demonstrating that the board's intention is to rehabilitate FORA's image. This isn't an exaggeration. Nearly every week, I see an article in the paper that questions FORA's actions. The excuses that are provided by FORA are really running thin, and very often it has been Jane Parker who has been asked the questions and makes the votes that ultimately turn out to be the correct ones. I mean, it's my mayor or my supervisor. It would normally be could be a tough choice, but again, Member Parker has clearly demonstrated the leadership that FORA needs. Luckily, Supervisor Parker represents Seaside as well, or most of Seaside, and then she represents Marina and Salinas, and that's just a bonus for a lot of the area. So please try and turn the ship around. FORA has been getting a lot of bad press, and I think you could go a long way towards doing that by voting Supervisor Parker into the executive committee. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next speaker.
I just have a brief question. I'm Nancy Amadeo from the City of Marina regarding process. I just wanted to know if the previous speaker was correct that the ballot must be done by roll call, or if it can be done as a secret ballot but done in a public place and then read publicly as to each vote. So if you can explain to me and the public which is proper.
It'll be done by roll call.
Good afternoon. My name is Dave Pacheco. I'm a resident of the city of Seaside. In the candidacy of Jane Parker and Ralph Rubio, I admire very much Jane Parker for her always being correct, it seems, and for her due diligence and always being prepared and well organized, and her consistency. Ralph Rubio, though, is the mayor of the city of Seaside, has much past experience in the FORA process, and is very competent in understanding the needs of our community, and I believe that Seaside is a huge player in this process, and his expertise, his knowledge, his awareness, his consistency of management, I think he'd be a tremendous asset to the executive board, and I'm hoping he'll be open-minded to his talents and will be supportive of his nomination. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next speaker.
Name is Eric Peterson. Just 2 quick points. If you're really looking for diversity, how can you have an all-male board? That is 19th century, and most of us are in the 21st century. Second point is it only makes sense, no matter who the supervisor holding District 4 is, that the District 4 supervisor be represented. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Bruce Delgado. You have 2 good candidates in Ralph and Jane. I support Jane in almost every way that I can because of her incredible service to our community. And similar to what the previous speaker said, if you want diversity, I think diversity of perspective is paramount. And I think Jane has demonstrated that she brings a diversity of perspective that's second to none. But either candidate will do a good job. Both are very experienced. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Next speaker, please.
Margaret Davis. I agree with Mayor Delgado. Diversity of point of view, of thinking, of ideas is what's meaningful. Geography is not meaningful. Seaside is not a monolith, so that one person offers diversity simply by being on there. You have example after example of Jane's perceptiveness, her orderly thinking, her willingness, courtesy, intelligence. I think it's indefensible that the 4th District Supervisor is not on the executive board where Fort Ord is entirely within her district. She represents thousands of people. It's jaw-dropping to me. When does the supervisor of the 4th District get to play in? If it's just tradition that the outgoing chairman remains on the board, if that's simply a traditional matter, then maybe that could be examined. Why should the 6th District Supervisor take, the 5th District Supervisor take the place of what should be the 4th District Supervisor? Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Denise Turley, and I'm just wondering why it has to be an either or. I'm just wondering, isn't there room on the board for both of them? Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Carlos Ramos, Coalition for Jobs, Opportunity, and Business in Seaside. Yes, that is a commercial announcement. But to the question, the vote was already taken, and the vote was done, although with some clarification now. The votes were still votes. And this board made the right decision. I trust that they will repeat that correct decision. Someone mentioned diversity. Well, yes, you have different levels of diversity, but if you look at it one way, having Mayor Rubio gives you a diversity of a poorer community, of a community that's been impacted the greatest of this entire Fort reuse process, and he happens to be a person of color. Take that into consideration. In addition to the fact, yes, he's qualified, more than. Supervisor Parker, very admirable work. But in order to move forward, it has to be someone that has demonstrated moving forward, such as Mayor Rubio. Please continue with your slate that you did originally approve this time around again. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next speaker. Anybody else wish to address the board? If not, back to the... I would entertain a motion. I'm sorry. Oh, there's one more person coming forward. Sorry, sir.
Reverend H.H. Luss, pastor of the Baptist Church in Seaside and president of the Ministerial Alliance. We've discussed this matter about the vote, and we thought, and after much discussion, and after many beautiful things, we feel that Mayor Rubio should be put on that board. We feel that he should be our next chairman. Nothing against our supervisor, but our supervisor does not represent us the way she should. He's our mayor. He represents us, and we feel that he should be next chairman.
Thank you, Reverend. Any last members wishing to address the board? Going once, going twice. Okay. Back to the board. I would entertain a motion.
I just
Victoria.
had a question about procedure. The Mayor Campley said that we might go office by office, or have you decided what your approach is?
We have an option of either going through a summary nomination, whereby if a member of the board wants to put forth a motion that we approve the slate as based on the recommendation of the nominating committee, we can do that. Or if somebody wants to put forth a motion as to going through each one of the various offices and having a roll call vote, that we can do that too. We can go with either one of the options.
Then I don't know. I think I would recommend that we have an option to vote on the slate with the alternative. I would move that we have an alternative, Jane Parker, in the second chair position as one of the, and then vote for that slate.
Well, we can either go with we have one of two options.
Mm-hmm.
We either go with the overall recommendation of the nominating committee,
Mm-hmm.
that would be the motion, and we'd vote on that. Or if I have a motion that we go through each one of the various offices one by one with a roll call vote, if I have a motion for that, seconded, then we can do that also. Do you wish to
Mr.
make
Chair,
a-
then in that case, let me make a motion that I make a motion that we take the nominating committee's recommendations as a slate.
Okay, I have a motion.
I already moved that I wanted to make a motion that we have the slate.
You didn't get a second, though, did you?
I didn't.
Okay, no, hold on. We have, please, we have one motion. Is there a second to Director Beach's
Thank you.
motion?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion, we have a second with regard to going through, having an election with each one of the specific offices. Does everybody understand that? Okay.
That's fine.
Okay.
That's a fine way to do it.
So we have a motion and second. I'll call for the question. Everybody here in favor of looking at each one of these offices one by one and having a roll call vote, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
I'm sorry.
I've got a question back.
Okay.
Did the executive committee, the nominating committee, look at diversity of men and women did they discuss that at all when they were meeting?
No, that was not an explicit factor.
Thank you.
Okay, we had a motion and second for this one motion. How about signify by raising your hand so we can see exactly how many people are voting for? Everybody in favor of the motion of having separate elections for each one of these offices, say aye and raise your right hand. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, we have 7 ayes. Anybody, all those opposed, signify by saying nay and raise your right hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, ayes have it. We will have individual elections for each one of the offices.
And
That's a procedural motion.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
could I just respond to the sense of what I think I'm hearing from people at public comment? One of the things that I felt became very apparent during this process is we have, based on both the master resolution primarily, but also via tradition, we've had very limited flexibility in the approach we took to the nominations. And I have made a recommendation to the executive officer of FORA for consideration at a future time, some adjustments that would allow us some more flexibility and I think potentially prove more satisfying to all of us in terms of how this process works. So just a thought to keep in mind.
Well stated, and thank you for your recommendation. We'll probably take that up again in the executive committee. Okay, we'll start off with the position of chair.
Mr. Chair, I
Yes.
move Delray Oaks Mayor Jerry Edelin as chair.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, are there any other nominations with regard to the chair position? No other nominations. Do we have to go? We will be going through a roll call vote. Okay, can we have a roll call vote, please?
Mayor Camp,
Edelin.
Aye or nay?
Supervisor
Well,
Salinas.
the truth is, on a nomination, we're
sorry.
electing the person.
Okay.
If we had 2, we'd be naming a name. But aye, if you prefer.
Supervisor Salinas. Mayor Gunter. Mayor Rubio. Mayor Pendergrass. Mayor Pro Tem O'Connell. Mayor Edelin.
Yes.
Councilmember Selfridge.
Yes.
Councilmember Morton. Mayor Pro Tem Oglesby. Supervisor Parker.
Aye.
I vote
Oh,
yes,
I'm
yes
sorry.
also.
Councilmember Beach. Unanimous vote.
Okay, thank you very much. I appreciate it. I'm the only one to be elected chair of this organization twice in a row. It looks. I don't. Condolences or congratulations. Thank you very much. Okay, next on the chopping block, we're looking at the first vice chair. Do I have a nomination?
I nominate Frank O'Connell.
I have a nomination for Frank O'Connell. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second. Okay, let's go ahead through the roll call vote. Or do I have any other nominations for the position? Going once? Okay, let's go through roll call vote for Director O'Connell.
Mayor Camp.
Aye.
Supervisor Salinas. Mayor Gunter. Mayor Rubio. Mayor Pendergrass. Mayor Pro Tem O'Connell. Mayor Edelin.
Aye.
Councilmember Selfridge.
Aye.
Councilmember Beach.
Aye.
Councilmember Morton.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Oglesby.
Aye.
Supervisor Parker.
Aye.
Unanimous vote.
Okay, we have a unanimous vote for Marina Mayor Pro Tem Frank O'Connell for the first vice chair. Next position to be voted on, second vice chair. Do I have any nominations?
I'd like to nominate Jane Parker.
Okay, we have a nomination for Jane Parker. Do I have a second? Second. Any other nominations for the second vice chair?
Nominate Ralph Rubio.
Second.
Okay, we have a nomination and a second for Mayor Rubio. Do we have any other nominations for the second vice chair? Seeing none, let's go through the roll call vote.
This is where we name names.
Mayor Camp.
Rubio.
Supervisor Salinas.
Rubio.
Mayor Gunter. Mayor Rubio. Mayor Pendergrass. Mayor Pro Tem O'Connell. Mayor Edelin.
Rubio.
Councilmember Selfridge.
Parker.
Councilmember Beach.
Parker.
Councilmember Morton.
Parker.
Mayor Pro Tem Oglesby.
Rubio.
Supervisor Parker.
Parker.
I have 5 in favor of Parker and 7 in favor of Rubio.
Okay, Seaside Mayor Ralph Rubio is elected the second vice chair. Next position, past chair. Do we have any nominations for the past chair? It's automatic, so there's no, okay. We have to roll call, even though it's automatic, we roll call vote. Okay. Is there a chance for
I'll nominate
alternatives?
Supervisor Potter if it helps.
Second.
Okay, we have a nomination for Monterey County Supervisor Dave Parker, and we have a second. Do we? Okay. Do we have any other names for the past chair position? It's a position. Okay. Let's go through. Let's go through. Yes.
Chair, we need to be clear. Either it's automatic rollover, but you can still nominate you. That's what the public needs to know.
That's what I need to know also. So it's an automatic rollover, and I guess the rule is you cannot have anybody else occupy that position since it has to be the past chair. Is that correct? A past chair. Or it could be a past chair. Is it? So it can be a past chair. Asking staff, who are the past chairs that would be eligible for the position? So I guess I have a legal opinion that the only person that can occupy this position is Dave Potter. Is that correct? Is that correct?
The master resolution says that it has to be a past chair. It doesn't say the immediate. I don't believe. I mean, I don't have the master resolution committed to memory, but I believe it says a past chair. Now, the candidates is looking around the room. Ralph Rubio and Dave Potter are the only past chairs. Ralph Rubio already holds a position. He's just been elected. So there's only, you can't have.
Yes, Ian.
Director Kemp we already have a motion.
Okay.
For Supervisor Potter. So I think that's...
No, that's fine. I just want to make sure that we are totally legal on this, not that we've ever had any legal difficulties before, okay?
No, I understand that.
Okay.
I think you're good to have anybody else want to be nominated, and if we
Right.
don't choose anybody, we don't need to figure out who to choose.
Okay. Okay, thank you very much. Let's go ahead and have a roll call vote for the past chair. We've already had public comment. Thank you, anyhow.
Mayor Camp,
Aye.
Supervisor Salinas, Mayor Gunter, Mayor Rubio, Mayor Pendergrass, Mayor Pro Tem O'Connell, Mayor Edelin,
Aye.
Councilmember Selfridge,
Aye.
Councilmember Beach,
Aye.
Councilmember Morton,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Oglesby,
Aye.
Supervisor Parker.
Aye.
It's a unanimous vote.
It was a hard-fought contest, but the past chair will be Supervisor Dave Potter. Okay, I've got Parker on the brain. Okay, the member at large.
I nominate Jane Parker
Go
for
ahead.
the member at large for the reasons enunciated by the audience.
Okay, we have a nomination for Supervisor Parker for member at large. Do I have a second?
Second.
We have a second. Do I have any other nominations for member at large?
I nominate Mayor Pendergrass.
We have a nomination and a second for Mayor Prendergast. Any other nominations for member at large? Seeing none, let's go through the roll call vote.
Mayor Camp,
Parker.
Supervisor Salinas. I'm sorry? Mayor Gunter, Mayor Rubio, Mayor Pendergrass, Mayor Pro Tem O'Connell, Mayor Edelin,
Pendergrass.
Councilmember Selfridge,
Parker.
Councilmember Beach,
Parker.
Councilmember Morton,
Parker.
Mayor Pro Tem Oglesby,
Pendergrass.
Supervisor Parker.
Parker.
I have a 6-6 vote.
It looks like we have a tie of 6-6, and seeing as how we're not going to be able to break the tie for this meeting, we will go ahead and continue it until next month. We'll have another election for this last position. Okay. I would like to congratulate all the folks that were elected the second time around. I'd also like to make a statement. Dave Potter, the last year or so, has ran through a stream of very difficult actions and so forth in this board. He put a lot of hard hours in there, and I thank him very much for all the work he's done on behalf of the board. Okay. Okay, next on the agenda is 8, old business, capital improvement program review, phase 2 study, adopt a resolution to reinstate the original formulaic approach language in resolution 12-5 adopted on August 29, 2012. And then authorize the execution of Amendment 1 to the implementation agreements to reinstate the original formulaic approach language approved on August 29, 2012. Michael, go ahead and take it away. Jonathan.
Members of the board, so this item came to the board, at the last meeting there was an item that came to the board that had proposed new language or additional language for this resolution, and also to authorize the executive officer to execute amendment number 1 to the implementation agreement. And so that proposed language was adopted by the board at the last meeting, and subsequent to that, at the January 16th FORA Administrative Committee meeting, the committee passed a motion to come back at a future meeting with alternative language to what was adopted at the previous board meeting. That was unsuccessful. The committee was unsuccessful in achieving some alternative language there, and the recommendation to the board is to rescind the language adopted at the previous board meeting. And the reasons stated for that include that they believe the original language was sufficient and it limited expenditures of the CFD special tax and development fee to provide certainty to development. It was the least confusing approach. They also determined that all 5 of the land use jurisdictions had either adopted the previous language or were in the process of adopting that language. And then they also, 3 of the 5 jurisdictions have voiced concerns with the approved language from the previous meeting. In addition to that, there was additional comments from, the development community had additional comments and concerns that was included in the board report and attachment D. And these included comment letters from the Building Industry Association, the cities of Marina and Delray Oaks, and concerns from South County Housing, which is building a project within the Dunes on Monterey Bay project area. And the general feeling from these, the general sense from these letters of concern were basically that the language did away with the uncertainty that was provided previously and would affect development significantly as far as whether or not to move projects forward. So if there's any comments or questions on the staff report, we're here to address any questions.
Okay, any questions about, yes, Victoria?
Just a procedural question. So am I to understand that the reason this is back is that it's staff recommendation that it come back, or that it is that plus the fact that there were voting members of the board who wanted to revisit it? Or just, this is just a procedural, how did we get to?
Both staff recommendation, and we had letters and members of the board that wanted to revisit this, one.
And procedurally, that is on the up and up, that's how we're supposed to handle a revote?
That's my, Jerry, would you please weigh in on the legality of that, please?
The agenda is set by the executive committee, and apparently the executive committee felt, for whatever reason that were sufficient to them, that this was something that should be brought back to the board. And that's the way that's the way the agenda is established. So,
okay. So that's legit. The only reason I'm asking, I'm not saying it's illegit at all, it's just that in my own particular city, there's a couple ways that, there's only really one way this can happen. I just want to make sure we did this the right way.
It's always, the agenda is always done by the executive committee.
Okay.
It's always nice to stay as legal as we possibly can. Okay. Any other questions of the board, members of the board? Saying none, out to the public. Do I have any members of the public wish to speak on this issue, please?
Good afternoon, directors and FORA staff. I'm Andy Leaf, Development Director for South County Housing. For those not familiar with us, we are an affordable developer. As mentioned, we are partnering with Marina Community Partners on a 108-unit project, which we just closed financing on last week, and we are excited and happy to announce that we are starting. We've had significant cooperation from Marina Community Partners and the City of Marina, but now we are the owners of the development, and we are entirely at risk for all fees and all costs. So we have moved forward despite some pretty significant risks in order to preserve $13 million of subsidy from the state and federal governments that we've obtained for this project. One of the risks that we moved forward knowing, despite that risk, was the fees, the FORA fees. And we moved forward on the basis of the September 2012 implementation plan that was signed by the City of Marina and FORA. So this is about a $200,000 hit. And I am urging, South County Housing is urging, that the board implement the plan immediately. We also I want to speak about future projects as well. We cannot develop affordable housing without the infrastructure that is needed by the master developers, and we understand that the fees, not only do we pay fees ourselves on all units that we develop, but the master developers need to know what the fees are so that they can move forward, build the infrastructure that we need so that we can build workforce and affordable housing for this community. I thank you for your time and your consideration.
Thank you, sir. Next speaker, please.
Hello again, Chair and board members. The first of two issues I'd like to address is that Section 1.21 of FORA's August 2012 resolution states that FORA fees were originally designed to fund specific CIP projects required by CEQA and described in the Base Reuse EIR and the 1998 Sierra Club Agreement. These obligations are listed in Section 1.1.1 and include transportation improvements, water augmentation, habitat management, firefighting equipment, and other specified costs and contingencies. Until your 2013 action last month, FORA fees were only required to pay for these mitigation and base-wide projects. If the purpose of your action last month was to maintain FORA's right to help the Veterans Cemetery or other non-CEQA required projects, then please rescind your January action and direct staff to bring you new policy. FORA already has executed an ESCA agreement to use non-FORA fee income for remediation of Army land. FORA could use this model for funding non-CEQA projects such as the Veterans Cemetery. Alternatively, there could be new FORA policies so non-CEQA projects are folded into your CIP but funded solely by grants or other sources, not through required CFD FORA fees. The purpose of all this attention is to get FORA policy out of the way of smart growth about to happen that would replace significant blight. Since your August action, an option agreement was executed for the VA clinic in October. Agreement to close escrow, we just heard, on 180 affordable homes was reached in November, and diligent work continues now to construct the theater in 2013. Your action last month results in significant financial uncertainty because it could allow FORA fees to increase 30%, such as per home fees to go up from $33K to approximately $49K. This could result in a $20 million uptick and make proposed projects infeasible. Such wide swings in costs are of a different order of magnitude than the potential increases in the cost of lumber or fuel. Given the loss of our RDAs and the difficult economic climate, FORA can do something today to help remove blight along pending projects on 2nd Avenue, East Garrison, and potentially along Seaside's Giggling Corridor. The viability of these projects can't be determined unless it's known approximately what numbers to plug into pro formas. The second issue I'd like to address is that your August 2012 resolution states the new formulaic calculations will go into effect within 90 days of FORA and its member jurisdictions adopting the new language. This adoption by FORA and multiple cities occurred in September. Projects such as at East Garrison and in Marina are almost ready to pull building permits and pay FORA fees. Please complete the new fee calculations that are already past due. It's my hope you don't need to re-adopt the resolution in Attachment B or reauthorize your EO in Attachment C to execute August's Amendment Number 1. In conclusion, please, in your motion today, rescind your January 2013 action. B, allow jurisdictions that have approved last August amendments to implement these bilateral agreements as close to the approved 90-day timeline as possible. And C, consider if last August actions can be your standing policies if you rescind your January action. This would avoid having to repeat them today and restarting the 90-day clock all over again for the new fee calculations to take effect. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Next speaker, please.
I'm Sid Williams from Marina, here tonight to represent the United Veterans Council. And for whatever reason, accidental or intentional, the language added by Supervisor Parker has had the consequences of open-ended and uncertain fee increases in the minds of those who will be required to pay those fees. They cannot assess the funds required for the fees and, by extension, their projects. They may, therefore, decide not to go forward with some of those projects. Such decisions would have dramatic impact on the VA clinic, VA DOD clinic in Marina, and the Veterans Cemetery. Should the developers not go forward, infrastructure to support the clinic and the cemetery would be unavailable and the projects would likely not go forward for a lack of funding. Just as Supervisor Parker said, she's tired of developers whining about what they have to pay. A lot of us are tired of the environmentalists wanting 100%. They already have 2/3 of Fort Ord. Don't let them stop the redevelopment of the what part that's left. Just delete the actions from January, take us back to August. We veterans vote, and I'm here to count.
Thank you, sir. Next speaker, please.
Good afternoon. My name is Chrisanne Giles. I'm Executive Director of the Building Industry Association. I appreciate the opportunity to comment this evening. BIA is requesting that we rescind your board action taken on January 11th, 2013, making unilateral revisions to the First Amendment to the implementation agreements and related FORA resolution as originally adopted by the FORA board in August of 2012 and submitted and approved by the cities of Seaside, Delray Oaks, and approved, signed, and recorded by the City of Marina. The BIA submits this request on behalf of the development community and those interested in the successful reuse and redevelopment of the former Fort Ord. The added language, whether intended or not, is not clarifying. We believe the language creates overriding considerations to important provisions, and as you've already heard, creates uncertainty in the CIP calculations that are used to set the CFD fee. Should you choose to rescind this evening, we are concerned that the staff memo before you overly complicates the process. In January, the board voted to further alter and approved First Amendment language to the implementation agreement previously adopted in August 2012. Additional language voted on in January should have been identified as a Second Amendment to the implementation agreement, as it altered the agreement already approved by the FORA board and several of your local jurisdictions. Rescinding the board action taken in January should in no way invalidate the board's First Amendment action, which was taken in August 2012. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Any other members of the audience?
Hello. My name is Scott Helk. I'm representing Marina Community Partners. We're the developer of the dunes on Monterey Bay. I'd like to thank you for taking the time to consider this action today. We participated extensively with FORA staff and went to many board meetings over the last year when the FORA fee was, the formulaic fee program was adopted. The purpose of the original fee program was to achieve a workable, ongoing process for setting the fees that would cover all of the base-wide mitigations, plus the other programs that the FORA boards in the past had adopted. And those were clearly spelled out in the document that was approved in August. The process was intended to be a reliable fee program that ensured that the FORA base-wide mitigations were included in the capital improvement program and the CIP was adequately funded. It's in everybody's best interest to have the funding adequately adopted to take care of all the mitigation programs. The January revisions created uncertainty, and we don't believe they were clarifying. We're not sure that they were unclarifying. We're not sure that they really did anything except add some uncertainty to the program. We were counting on the funding program to move forward, to be able to move forward with a number of projects. The original implementation agreements were adopted by the FORA board in August and by the City of Marina in September. And we relied upon the program to move forward with a number of near-term projects. We executed an option agreement for the VA Medical Center in October. That deal is a land sale to a third-party developer who will be responsible for the development and pay the fees. However, MCP will be responsible for multi-million-dollar infrastructure development, continued planning exercises, and doing demolition and electric overhead relocation work. We still have a significant amount of work to do with VA to move that project forward. In addition, we continue to work with VA on the documents to make that project a reality. for instance, in January, we signed 2 agreements, subsequent agreements with VA to continue to move the project forward, one of them to extend some of their deadlines. We anticipate that there will be similar agreements in the future. We're currently working on an additional agreement with VA to do some additional things with that particular property. In addition, we moved forward in November with South County Housing and continued our commitment to move that project forward. And as Andy said, that project entailed multi-levels of financing to move it forward. It also represented, again, a multi-million-dollar commitment from MCP to provide land, cash subsidies, and utility programs, in addition to what we had already done with grading, demolition, and planning for the project. We are currently hoping to close with Cinemark. Again, Cinemark is a multi-million-dollar commitment on MCP's behalf to move that project forward, again, provide land, infrastructure, and subsidies. For us, what that represents is a commitment to move forward based on the hope that we're able to recover those investments by other aspects of the project. When uncertainty is created by not knowing what the fees will be, how to run our pro formas, it affects our ability to make those near-term decisions and move forward with valuable community aspects. We appreciate the board's consideration. We ask you to reconsider, and hope you will move forward and do that. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Good afternoon, Nancy Amadeo from the City of Marina. The FORA board was set up with a mandate to ensure the 3 E's: environment, education, and economic development. And unfortunately, the state of California hugely impact this region when they dissolved the redevelopment agencies, making it even more difficult for the communities to move forward with economic development. I'm afraid that the amendment to the August 12 agreement will stop development. You've heard the concerns of several speakers, including our mayor. I agree with what they have to say. I hope that you will recognize that we've done a great deal to clean up the environment and to protect it. We now have a national monument. We've brought a university, MPC, the Monterey College of Law, all onto the former Fort Ord. What we haven't done is create the economic engine that we lost when the base closed. Do not implement the January 2013 amendment. Please rescind it and go back to what was agreed upon in August so that we can move forward and be productive for our communities. Thank you.
Thank you, Council Member.
I'm Chuck Landy with Marina Heights. Excuse my voice. Just wanted to take a quick second, not repeat what previous speakers have said, but you know, when we run pro formas, we don't run them for a 1-year period or 2-year period. We run them for the life of the project. And in our case, I can speak for Scott and myself, you're looking at 10, hopefully not more than 10 to 12 years. It could be depending on how this market comes back. But predictability is very, very critical. And I do hope that you rescind this January motion so we can move forward. We're desperate to do so. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any other speakers?
Good evening, Bob Schaefer. If you really want development on the former Fort Ord, you'll reconsider this resolution. The development community devotes thousands of hours and continues to invest millions of dollars, all of which are private, no taxpayer dollars, into the effort to restore the economic opportunity, which means jobs. It takes a long time to bring developments to fruition, especially in this area. One of the impediments to building the things that the community wants, such as facilitating affordable housing, a movie theater, restaurants, healthcare facilities, etc., are the amounts of fees and the uncertainty of what the fees will be. This is why rescinding that resolution is vital. To benefit your constituents, I urge you to adopt that rescission. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any other speakers?
Mr. Chair, board members, and staff, Carlos Ramos, C-Jobs. A speaker earlier mentioned the 3 E's of what the vision is all about in terms of the reuse of the old Fort Ord: education, environment, and economic development. Without question, you have an opportunity to make up for the fact that so far to date, you've done exceptionally well. And this is not a recorder. This is one more time a repetition to remind you that you've done exceptionally well with the environment. You've done exceptionally well with education. This is the time for this to be a unanimous vote to rescind what happened in January to go back to August. That will send a wonderful positive message to all of those folks that were displaced, lost jobs, ended up having to shack up with someone else because of families having to live on top of other families because of lost income. The housing issues. You know, a lot of people are talking that, why build more or why create more? That now's not the time. No, now is the time. We're making that turn. And cities like Marina, poor, diverse communities. Cities like Seaside, poor, diverse. It's an enterprise zone. It's an enterprise through the CBDG. It's one of the entitlement cities. You've got to take care of these communities. And you can, with this unanimous vote to rescind, at least make a chip on this, getting the economic development portion of your commitment, your promise to the community, back in line. Please rescind.
Thank you, sir. Any other speakers? Okay, seeing none, back to the board. To entertain a motion at this time.
Mr. Chair, if I
Yes,
might?
yes, Supervisor
I would
Parker.
just make a comment and then I will make a motion. I just have to say that I'm surprised that we have this back on the agenda. We had been working to get this language clarified and finalized. Back in September, everyone agreed, including the developers, that clarifying language was okay. And yet, as we start to draft it, Scott Hilk, who I think is the main proponent of this effort we see today, said he wouldn't accept any clarifying language and proceeded to propose language that was even more restrictive than what we have here. To be clear, the clarifying language does not touch the formula. The clarifying language has to do with ensuring that the Fort Ord Reuse Authority and responsibilities are able to be carried out by this board. So I don't know about anyone else, but I'm a little tired of the Dunes project saying, give us this concession or we won't proceed with the projects. Every time we give them what they want or what they say they want, then they say, well, we just need one more thing. We lowered the developer fees 25% last year. We revised the CIP list to remove certain expenses for habitat management at their behest, letting those expenses fall on the county and on UC. Marina promised them an additional $106 million in tax increment. I think they've gotten plenty of concessions from all of us, and I'm not going to vote to give up FORA's right and obligation to budget for what may be reasonably needed to fulfill our mandate, but may not already be specified on the CIP list. So I make a motion that we retain the resolution that we passed last month.
You have a motion on the floor by Supervisor Parker to retain the resolution last month. Do I have a second for that motion?
I'll second.
Okay, I have a motion, and Victoria, it was you? Okay, and then we have a second by Director Beach. Okay, I'll call for the question. All in favor of signify of the motion? I'm sorry, discussion. Any discussion by members of the board?
That's why I seconded. I'd like to discuss it at least.
Okay, sorry.
What I'd like to understand is, first of all, I'm very much in favor of consistency and predictability for developers. I think that's a paramount value that we should be providing for them. What I'd like to understand is how, and this maybe someone on staff can answer this for me, how it is that this clarifying language removes that predictability and consistency. Because obviously if it does, that's not a good thing.
I will point to in your board packet so that all the board members can get a pretty good idea of what we're talking about. If you'll go to page 27 of 151, and I very much respect what some of our colleagues have pointed out to us about understanding contextually what it is that we're talking about making an adjustment. And this will be so that the board members can see what the new language is. And the language that was adopted in January is now in strikeout form on page 27 of 151 under 1.2.1. That's the language that you adopted last month. It adds comments that allows for possible future board actions following base reuse plan reassessment process may result in changes to the CIP. This resolution does not limit the right to fund such changes through the policy and CFD special taxes. That particular language you've heard the developers say is a direct line to their underwriters that tell them that this means your fees can be raised. And as a consequence of that, we have to give you an analysis of your feasibility in your project and your fundability that would be higher than it would have been otherwise. What you heard from South County Housing about the affordable project was that that language alters their pro forma by more than $200,000 and makes their project infeasible in the near term. So I'll just use that one language to describe. That's what you heard from the developers. I've not talked to the individual developers, underwriters, but over the course of time, I probably looked at a couple of thousand project pro formas. And the underwriters, in looking at pro formas to make decisions about funding projects, will always go to the most conservative view of what the costs in putting the project together are going to be in underwriting both terms and conditions as well as the actual determination about funding comes from that review of the pro forma. That's what I heard the developers say today, and I just want to point at that language because that's the one. Now, there are other language changes in here as well if you want me to go through them, but that one answers your question, Director Beach.
So, okay.
Go ahead. Any follow-up question,
can I follow
please?
up? So the implication seems to be that this is a way that the fees can go up, but I would assume that there are other ways that the fees can go up as well that are intrinsic to the formula. So there's something specific about this way that they can go up that is more unpredictable than another way that they could go up? Is that the assertion? Because
Sorry.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, please.
That is what the developers indicated. I think they're, I'm not sure about all of their concerns. They're particularly concerned about changes to the CFD special taxes. That's what they've mentioned in the letters that we've seen and are attached to your board packet. So I think this language opens a door that they're saying their underwriters saw closed before.
Okay, then one other slight question that's just slightly off of this topic is that well, you know what, I'll leave it for
Okay.
I'll leave it for later
Any other
discussion.
questions by board members? Seeing none, we have a motion, basically. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, I was confused on where we
Go ahead,
were in
Bill.
the process. When you said questions, I thought we were before public comment, but we've had it. The wording, as I read it, and it's really interesting because where is the snake in the grass in these words? And I think that's kind of the question because certainly as I read this, FORA can change the CIP. That's not a problem. And it doesn't limit, we're not limited in our right to fund changes through some policy, but when we tack on words such as CFD special taxes, to me that clearly opens a door to an unbounded exposure for a developer. And as I would read that, we've now set ourselves apart and beyond this policy. And furthermore, the words that are added here, other than those words, don't give us any rights that we wouldn't have anyway. So I think it's a very valid question to ask why we should continue with these words. So my inclination is to support the reversion to the prior thing. And by the way, these words occur twice as far as I can tell in the document, so it's not a matter of just pulling out a couple things here and there.
Okay, we have a motion and a second on the floor, basically not to rescind Resolution 13-2 adopted January 11th, 2013. Calling for the question, all in favor of the motion on the floor signify by saying aye. All opposed signify by saying no. Nay? No. Okay, the motion fails. Do I have an alternate? Do I have another motion?
Move staff recommendation.
Okay, we have a motion to move staff recommendation and a second. Okay, all in favor signify by saying, okay, a comment on the second.
Yes, thank you very much. I've heard the concerns of the developers, and the city of Marina has already taken this back in August and has approved it. The council did. FORA signed it. It's been recorded. As far as the city of Marina is concerned, we have a binding agreement with FORA as of the time in which this document was executed by everyone back last year. I'm going to vote yes on this, but I honestly don't believe the concerns of South County Housing as well as the Dunes is truly justified based on the wording that exists in this document. But my council, including myself, as part of the council, voted for approval of the August amendment, so I'm going to continue in that position. But I just want to be on the record that I do not consider that this vote by myself is somehow starting the clock over again on the 90 days. The 90 days has expired as far as the city of Marina is concerned, and the appropriate action should be taken to get going on this and get the city of Marina the necessary funds, or the developers necessary funds to get this going. If we're really concerned about the economy, then we're now looking at February, so we're talking well over the 90-day period. So, thank you.
Okay, we have a motion to rescind Resolution 13-2.
There's another discussion. Sorry, we're still in discussion, right?
Well, we had the discussion before, but he was a second of the motion, so he has a chance to continue to talk about it.
Right. I would like to make a comment on this second motion now.
Go ahead.
Yes, or a question, actually. I would love to vote for this motion. I would like to say aye. I wanted to have some assurance, I guess, from the staff that this is, the language as it is now does not limit FORA's financial capacity to execute its state legislated mandate to have it has broad financial requirements to basically to not only plan and execute, but also to finance all the pieces of its charter. So I just want to make sure that this does not restrict that, and so that I can then vote aye on the motion.
Rescinding would not impede FORA's latitude and discretion in doing the things that we're mandated to do in the FORA Act or in the base reuse plan.
But to finance them is what I'm asking, because
No.
Okay.
No.
All right.
Okay.
I actually looked at that question before this arose. I was asked for an opinion on that subject, and I rendered it, and I looked at it in some detail, and so this is not just an off-the-cuff opinion.
Thank you.
Okay, we have a motion by Supervisor Salinas to rescind Resolution 13-2 adopted January 11th, and we have a second by Mayor Pro Tem O'Connell. All in favor?
Question.
More comment. Okay, yes.
It's just a comment in general. The staff report, it makes it difficult for assessing, and I thank you, Mr. Bowden, for giving us the legal opinion. It'd be beneficial if those legal opinions on what the language would do or not do from the standpoint of our responsibility as directors here, so we can make that analysis, because it is true, as Mayor O'Connell said, what's happened in the city of Marina versus what this language is, and the vote here today is not simply because the developers are standing up and demanding something, but we're trying to make decisions that are well-reasoned for the FORA board acting in the best interest of FORA. So I'm asking the staff reports to be more directive for us, please.
Thank you. Any other comments? Okay, I'll call for the question. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? We have one nay. The resolution will carry on to next month with a second vote. Thank you very much.
What about the 72 days?
Oh, okay. Okay, actually what we'll probably do is call a special meeting to help the developers and other personnel, probably within, how many days? And somewhere over 72 hours away, we'll have a special meeting of the board to consider this one more time.
Through the chair,
Yes.
was that request by the city of Marina? I just don't like the statement about helping the developer. You know,
Oh, it was I'm sorry. It was requested by the city of Marina.
We should help our members.
We should help the members. We should help everybody we possibly can. Okay, it is now 5:30 p.m. I need a motion from the board to extend our meeting a bit until we finish the rest of the business. Do you have a motion to extend the meeting?
I think we were doing 30 minutes increments.
Right.
30 minutes.
Okay, we have a motion to extend the meeting for 30 minutes. Do I have a second? All in favor, signify by saying aye. Anybody opposed? Oh, you troublemaker. Okay, moving on so we can get through this very quickly. Next item of business is approving the Preston Park management contract with Alliance, a second vote. Now, we've already had public comment before the first vote. We've had the first vote. It wasn't 100%. It wasn't unanimous. So we're bringing it back for the second vote. Prior to having the second vote, what we're going to do is receive a report from staff in response to questions posed by a member of the public at the January meeting. And who's going to be handling that? Robert Norris will be handling that report.
Members of the board, at the last meeting, 5 concerns were raised by a member of the public regarding operations or incidents at the Preston Park apartments. We have included the response from Alliance Management, and I also have Annette Thurman here, who is the Vice President for Alliance Management, to respond or amplify on any of the responses that have been made. Okay. I'm sorry? Annette, would you? Okay.
Yeah, Ned, if you could just go through these 5 items very briefly.
Sure, absolutely. The first question raised is if the employees, which are residents, thank you, that's larger. The employees which are residents at the property are held to the same standards of other residents, and how many associates live on site. Absolutely, the employees are held to the same standards as any other resident within the property, and there are 2 employees that presently live at Preston Park. If anybody has questions, just keep going. The second item that was questioned was the resident payment portal charging $30 for residents to pay by phone, and that no notice had been given. The $30 payment is actually for a credit card payment, which is the same level of payment approximately that was in place with a prior system. There was a change of system in 2012, which there were multiple modes of communication that went out letting residents know of the new system, because those that were already on an automatic payment system had to shift that payment over to the new system. But there was no notable changes that occurred with regard to the payment amounts. And as a note on that, the credit card payments are actually associated fees from the provider bank. They're not fees that are generated as an ancillary cost for the property. Item number 3, having asked for a tenant handbook to be created and not received, We are aware that there was a resident handbook that had been in a stage of development when management was transitioned in 2008. The process wasn't completed as we instituted a rules and regulations and community policies as part of the lease agreement. At ownership's direction, we're happy to create and distribute a specific resident handbook, and we have spoken with PAPTA, who is working on identifying documents that they would like to see in said handbook. So happy to make adjustments there. Item number 4, FORA should provide Alliance with the format to use for the budget process. Historically, Preston Park has actually followed the same budget process as Abrams Park. Last year, there was a transition of asset management responsibilities, and so that process was slightly different than it had been in prior years. We have submitted a calendar, which is in line with historical methods of resident meetings and review. And upon approval of that, we will provide that to the Preston Abrams Park Tenants Association for feedback to make sure that those dates work for them as well. Item number 5 said that Corinne Carmody, the regional manager of Alliance Residential, has not been responsive to the Tenants Association, has refused to meet with them. To date, we are unaware of any requests for Corinne or any other member to meet with the Preston Abrams Park Tenants Association. We have, however, in the past reached out requesting to see if there would like to be regularly scheduled meetings, and we've not been taken up on that. However, we would absolutely again propose that there would be a quarterly meeting and would be open to attending any of the PAPTA meetings that happen on a monthly basis to be able to answer questions as they might arise. And those were the 5 items that were brought up.
Thank you very much. Again, this is a second vote. We've already had public comment. We've already gone through or the board discussion during the first vote. So I'll be calling for the all in favor of authorize. Yes. Do any of the board members have any questions of the staff comments that were made just now?
I do. I'm glad you did. I was going to stop.
Okay, go ahead. I'd asked that earlier, but I got a different answer.
No, I understand. You. Good job, Chairman. I know you're doing good. My 2 questions, comments is, how long would it going to take to get that residence handbook together?
That is something that we would look for the Tenants Association to give us some direction on what information they would like to see in it. We have a community rules and regulations that is part of the lease agreement as it stands. So any additional information that they're looking for, we would invite that feedback, and we can have created in short order.
Okay. I think the board should direct staff to put a timeline on that. We don't need to just leave it out there. Okay, and the second one is, I'm very uncomfortable with the $30 fee for paying your rent with a credit card. And then that's just, as they say, the $30 fee, the pricing varies based on the actual rent amount. So I guess it could be lower or higher, but we shouldn't be charging people $30 to pay their rent with a credit card and then say, well, we're really not doing it. It's the bank, it's the service provider. That's just that's pretty exorbitant to me. If we went to Macy's and they said, hey, I'm going to charge you $30 to put this on your credit card, we would say, no, thank you. And these guys are paying their rent. And if that was a percentage of your rent, that'd be pretty much. So I know that's what the fee is, and so that's my apprehensive. And it's going to move forward, but I just want to put that on the record. And I think I'm going to vote no, just so there's a record of then we need to look at this. I don't know if we'll do it this year or maybe next year, but the board is going to move forward. But I wanted to put that out there.
Can I make a comment to that?
Go ahead.
It's absolutely ownership's direction as to how they'd like that fee to be handled. If that is a fee that they would like the property to absorb in lieu of the resident, it's absolutely ownership's discretion.
We can settle that later.
Okay, we'll do. Nancy.
Yes, on the last item on answer to 5 to have their quarterly meetings, would you please notify FORA when you're going to have those quarterly meetings?
Absolutely.
Any other questions by the board? Oh,
To Director Self, do you mean notify the FORA board? Because Alliance keeps FORA staff notified of all the...
The staff can notify the board, so if we care to go to those quarterly meetings, we can.
good idea.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to offer a substitute motion that we extend the contract, but just until the end of May, and then and immediately now issue an RFP for a new property manager.
You want to extend the contract to the end of May and RFP for a new property manager. Okay, we have a motion.
Open up the competitive process.
Okay, that's actually two motions. So first of all, you want to make a motion about extending the contract to the end of May. Okay. Do we have a second for that motion?
Mr. Chairman, I think we've had this before. This is the second vote. And all we're considering tonight is this second vote. And we should vote on this.
That's a very good point. I'm sorry. This is a second vote. We can't bring any other type of motions or whatever else according to the FORA rules. We just have to have the second vote. If you want to bring something up in the future, you may, but we just have this second vote of this one thing. Okay? Yes, you may.
Yes, just very quickly. I'm going to be voting against it for many reasons I've stated in the past. There is no public comment, but I do want to make the board aware of paragraph 9.8.3 relating to arbitration. It does require the initials of a FORA and Alliance, so I think that before you take a vote, you may want to determine whether or not you're going to give authority for initialing that for the purpose of arbitration as compared to not having arbitration. But again, I'm voting against this, so just throwing it out there for you to look at in case some of you may have missed it.
I'd like a ruling from our legal counsel, please.
What is the question, whether you need to initial this to...
Prior to the vote.
Is the question whether initials are required for the arbitration provision to take effect?
No, not even close.
What is
the question is, if I may,
Sure.
The question is whether or not the FORA board realizes that when they authorize this agreement to extend it for a period of time, are they also authorizing the FORA staff to initial it so that arbitration would be binding on FORA relating to this, or are they just going to disregard it and not initial? I think the board has to make a decision whether or not they want to go the arbitration route or not arbitration route, so that the staff would know which way to go.
I don't hear a legal question there.
Well, I do, but that's okay.
Oh, I don't know the question. Is the question whether, well, the way you've asked it is advising the FORA board that they need to be clear to staff about the direction that they're giving to staff with respect to the arbitration clause.
If I may comment.
Go ahead.
I think the question is, we're being asked to accept this agreement. Is the mandatory arbitration clause a provision of this agreement that we're being asked to approve, or is that provision being excluded? And the reason that that question has to be answered is it requires a second signature in the contract document.
So my initial question was right, which is, does the arbitration clause take effect if it's not initialed? And the answer to that question is no, it does not.
So the question...
But the point is well taken, that if the direction is to the staff to sign this contract, they're going to initial that provision because that is part of the contract. So if you don't want to do arbitration, you better tell the staff contract is fine, but not the arbitration clause.
Thank you.
Okay, that clarifies it. Okay, basically, we will be voting on authorizing executive officer to extend the Alliance FORA Preston Park management agreement for 1 year. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Here, this is the second vote.
No.
It's the second vote. Not on the second vote. Okay, all in favor by signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed?
No.
Let's go ahead and we have to have public comment. Are you saying? Okay, let's don't Then keep the noise down over there. Jeez. Okay, let's have a roll call vote on this one, please.
Mayor Camp,
Aye.
Supervisor Salinas, Mayor Gunter, Mayor Rubio, Mayor Pendergrass, Mayor Pro Tem O'Connell,
No.
Mayor Edelin,
Aye.
Councilmember Selfridge,
No.
Councilmember Morton,
No.
Mayor Pro Tem Oglesby,
Yes.
Supervisor Parker,
No.
We have a vote of 6 ayes and 4 nays. It carries. Thank you very much. Next on the agenda is the FORA mid-year budget. We're to receive the fiscal year 12-13 FORA Reuse Authority operating budget mid-year status report and approve additional expenditures as noted and recommended by the Finance Committee. Michael?
Yes, Chair Edelin, members of the board, you have before you a report that has been prepared by staff and reviewed by the Finance Committee. There are 2 charts that are included in the budget. First one is the Fort Ord Reuse Authority mid-year budget, all funds combined. And that particular chart is one that you, for those of you that are new, the idea of this chart is to make sure that you can see the approved budget, the mid-year budget, and where there have been adjustments that are recommended for your acceptance by the Finance Committee. In this particular chart, I want you to note some important items where there are significant changes. There are a number of changes, but the most significant ones are that under land sale proceeds, we have a budget adjustment of $27,950,279. I want to note at this particular point that at that point in time, there was a potential sale of property in Marina to the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints that Marina has since decided not to move forward with, and so there is a further adjustment that would need to be recognized today. Also, there is a note I want to make today that there is a property tax distribution anticipated from the auditor controller. It says $1.3 million. In fact, we did receive a check moments before this meeting started earlier today. The check was only for about half that much. And so we're still working with the auditor to figure out where the rest of this money is, but we do anticipate that the full amount will be received as the auditor has indicated such. And so we'll wait and see if that actually happens. So those are 2 important items. If you look under expenditures, a couple of significant items are that under capital projects, we are reducing expenditures essentially to reflect the fact that development activities have slowed more than were projected last year, and so we've reduced expenditures to reflect that slowness in collecting fees. Also, we decreased the payoff of Preston Park, which the board had approved last year after it authorized the sale of Preston Park, since that sale has been postponed due to litigation. So therefore, there's a couple of significant changes. The ending fund balance would then be something attuned to $7,005,618, which is significantly different from the $15 million and change that we had thought might be the ending fund balance. I also want to note that there are a couple of items on the following chart under itemized expenses. Under itemized expenses, there are a couple of things that are a response to board action from last year. The board removed the 2% COLA during the board action last year. The board indicated that that should be brought back for consideration at the mid-year. We are not bringing back a 2% COLA, but we are asking the board to consider putting into the budget about $20,000 that would account for allowing a certain amount of staff benefit increases that might be associated with staff members who are eligible for merit increases, since those funds were not in the budget either. So it would be about $20,000 that would allow for staff members, non-executive staff members, who would be eligible for step increases due to their performance and their employment contract. Looking further down on the itemized expenditures, there are a couple of adjustments. One is the amount of money that we've added for increased legal costs. Many of these have already been authorized by the board in closed session, but they're here to be reflected in the budget so that the full board sees this about where the changes have been. There's a couple of places where there was some threatened litigation having to do with certain actions with the remedial services contract. That increased the amount required for defense of those actions, and so that's where you see an adjustment for special counsel. There's also an increase, overall increase in the budget, going from about $125,000 to about $500,000. That includes specific actions taken by the board with respect to certain settlement of fees and other costs. So those are my major notes about the budget. This particular budget, we ask that the board receive it. There's the action here would just allow for these adjustments, and so it's not actually an adoption, but a receipt that now includes these in the revised budget for the year. Ivana Bednarek, our controller, is here to add any comments if the board members have questions.
Any questions by board members? No questions? Yes, Gail.
So the $1.3 million that was anticipated, I know that wasn't, or it's my understanding that that was not factored in the first part of the budget for the first 6 months from June of 2012. So now we've received $650,000 of the property tax without an explanation, or we are affirmed in writing that the balance of your estimated $1.3 million will be received.
Yeah. Of the $1.3 million that we assumed we would be getting, because that was what we had been receiving annually in past years, around that, we have received about half today. We do not have an explanation yet. We only have our request in to the auditor controller about why that was the case. So we have nothing in writing back about why it was short. Ivana, do we have anything at all?
I just want to add that typically we receive payment from the county controller's office 2 times a year in 2 installment payments. So this was the first one, and hopefully the second one will be received in June, when the April-May collections received by the county. But we request more information as to if this is going to be the case, and if the amount is to be about the same by writing from the controller's office today as we received the check. So we don't have the exact answer, yes, but the expectation is to receive one more payment like that this fiscal year.
So if I'm understanding correctly, generally they come in 2 payments, and since the first payment for the first installment is $650,000, you're confident about putting the $1.3 million in your budget because you're anticipating the second payment would be the same percentage.
That's correct.
Thank you.
Frank?
Yes, thank you. On the page 77, at first page of attachment 1, on development fees, going across, it says anticipated University Village apartment plus $400,000 payment from Preston Park. Could someone please explain to me what is the $400,000 development fee payments from Preston Park? I am not aware of any development out there. So why are we anticipating $400,000?
Jonathan?
As many of the board already know, Preston Park is a project on FORA that has an obligation to FORA's fee program. Since FORA is unable to currently sell the property, the project still owes development fees, and what's being proposed in the budget is to collect from the project equal between now and when FORA has to sunset. It would be approximately $400,000 a year in development fees to get the project paid up on its fees. So that's what's in the budget.
If I'm, one more, if I may, actually 2 more, but at the end of that same line, what does the 3.3 million fee total represent?
That's Preston Park's total obligation of fees in the FORA fee program.
Is it, and maybe the Authority Council can answer this for me, but is the development fee question part of the litigation?
I don't know. I'm going to have to punt that one to the litigation counsel.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other questions by board members? Yes. Mayor Garner? None? Any other questions? Yes.
Mr. Chair,
Ajay?
I guess the discussion about the property tax payment, if we traditionally have been getting approximately $1.3 million, why wasn't it in the budget in the first place? Did we think it wasn't coming this year? Or?
Yeah, we reported on this several times in the past. Last year, when redevelopment was dissolved, all payments to these kinds of agencies were also dissolved. And we made a direct, at the direction of this board, we had a special counsel out of Sacramento that we hired to look at our circumstance and to put together a legal opinion that validated our right to the share of property tax. It's in state law. It's in several other provisions as obligations. Jerry Bowden also opined that this was the case. The Treasurer-Controller was not certain and not sure at that time and made it clear. Department of Finance had rejected such claims by other military-based reuse and recovery programs in the state. 5 of them sued to get their share. For the Inland Empire, for example, there are 2 different ones that are suing. And there have been different interpretations. And each of those had a different structure of the language in state law as to how this might apply. So like everyone else benefiting from the structure of the reassessment taxes, this was in question. And so that's the reason for it, and we were not sure, although we thought we had a strong case, all the way through.
Thank you.
Any other questions by board members? Seeing none, out to the public. Any questions by members of the public? Seeing none, back to the board. I'd entertain a motion, please.
Move receipt.
Okay, there's a motion to receive the fiscal year 12-13 Florida Reuse Authority operating budget, mid-year status report, and approve additional expenditures as noted and recommended by the Finance Committee. The maker of the motion was Supervisor Parker, is that correct? And the second was Director Morton. Okay, all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Anybody opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much. It's now 6 o'clock. Time flies when we're having fun. I need a motion to extend our meeting for whatever time you think it might be necessary. We're moving up some momentum here. It shouldn't take much longer. Do I have a motion? Going twice.
I move to extend the meeting for 20 minutes.
20 minutes. Okay, we have a motion to extend the meeting by 20 minutes. Do I have a second? All right, we have a second. That wasn't so difficult. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Anybody opposed? Besides these 2 scofflaws over here. Oh, okay, you had something to say, Michael?
Chair, given that there is limited time left in the day, it might be useful to go to public comment so that the public has an opportunity to make a comment before the time is expired.
That's an excellent idea. We don't want to have the public sticking around any longer than they have to. We're being paid for this overtime. In fact, I think in the budget we get triple overtime. Triple times 0 is still 0. Any member of the public like to address the forward board here on any item not on the agenda? You've got 3 minutes. Okay, the staff will not respond immediately. They'll either respond to you in a short period of time or it'll be brought back and we'll explain at the next meeting. Please, sir.
Good afternoon, Chair, board members, and staff. I can see by the look on Mayor Gunter's face that he will be sending us councilman or school board member, whatever he is, Castaneda, to the next meeting. and such. So I just wanted to express a little bit of concern. We don't really have a position on Ron Cheshire, speaking on behalf of the Monterey Santa Cruz Building Construction Trades Council. Position on this fees for the developers for this formulaic approach, but we have noticed a few things. This is their second time that they have come to you for help, and we're waiting for the third time, which is being shilled by someone in Marina that spoke a little bit earlier today and in other comments. We want things to be very predictable for the developers also. We want them to know that there's workers in this area and that they won't really have to go to Arizona, Nevada, Texas, or places further south to get their workers. We want them to know that if they pay decent wages to the community members here, that they might even be able to buy a house, maybe not in their development, but an older house where somebody moves up to buy one of their houses. And that they might actually join in and helping our community out by training individuals here. So I know the veterans are a rough group. I've seen them in action. My father was a veteran. But the workers of this community are not going to kowtow and bow down to wage cuts that they will never be able to recover from. Wages that our community fought for and that you passed in your first resolution as a FORA board. It was all part of the president's 5-point plan. Local business and local labor should go ahead and benefit from what's done here. And that's what our community wanted. So there better not be a third time, not in regards to that. Lastly, I'd like to congratulate the new officers of the board. Well, you almost have a whole group now. And I would hope that they would have the wisdom that the next time we have a 68 to 70 degree day in the middle of February, that the meeting will be immediately canceled and moved to the next rainy day in the month. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. Next speaker, please.
Jan Schreiner, there's some cussing going on behind me. I hope you don't mind. And I'm concerned about what happens sometimes in marinas. That cussing going on behind me has been going on since about 2003. And since 2003, we have been waiting for Marina Heights to build. They have put a fence around the property, and we pay the rent on that fence. We have developer lag fees in Marina going about $1.6 million at this point. We don't get to earn interest on that money, and we don't have that money for our community. You know why we have this kind of lag? We've given our development community a lot of breaks. We haven't got a lot of jobs. I keep hearing about these jobs. Since 2003, I've been hearing about these jobs. We got a fence. I don't know how many jobs it took to build that fence, but I'm really tired of this business, of the developers asking for breaks and telling us how poor they are and how many jobs they're going to bring and all that pie in the sky. So I just want you to think about that too, please. That we already got approved over 2,000 homes. I haven't seen the jobs. I'm tired of paying the money to help our development community, not our kids.
Thank you, ma'am. Next speaker, please.
I find that, Denise Turley, I find this process very interesting that my 5 questions were the point of comment earlier. I'm not going to argue with that on you. I'm just going to say that I find it very interesting that I don't know whether I wasn't heard or whether FORA rewrote the questions or whether they let Alliance write the answers to questions that they wanted to be asked, but those weren't my questions. And so, yet again, and I wasn't allowed to comment or say anything before the vote, and so yet again, we've gotten steamrollered over. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Any other speakers? Okay, public comment period is closed. Next item on the agenda is the fiscal year 11-12 annual financial audit. Michael?
Yes, Chair Edel and members of the board, you have before you a recommendation that's been reviewed by the Finance Committee. This is to accept the Moss, Levy, and Hartzheim CPA recommendation annual audit. A little bit of a history here. This is the first time that Moss, Levy, and Hartzheim has been performing the annual audit. As the new auditor, they were hired in September of 2012 to conduct the audits for the 11-12, 12-13, and 13-14 audits. This particular audit met with the members of the Finance Committee, was specifically asked for more in-depth review of the FORA budget than we'd had in past years. This was both because of items that were brought to the board's attention during the course of last year, and also because many of the audits in the past have been called into question by a forensic audit. So I think that's correct. The audit report and the management report are included in the board packet. I think you can read those for yourself. This has also been made available on the FORA website for anyone that would like to review. In this particular management report, the auditor is recommending some improvements to our internal control structure. 3 of those the auditor thought were significant adjustments that needed to be made. Those are included in the audit report. There are also 3 others. All of the findings have either already been implemented by staff or are in the process of being implemented. There are a number of items that will come back to the board next month with respect to our expense reimbursement policy and our cell phone policy and so forth that will come back here for your review. One of the issues has to do with an ongoing obligation that the FORA board has for an actuarial study or a particular kind of study being done for post-employment benefits that are required under FORA's contract. That will occur during this fiscal year. It's called an OPEB study, and there's a note about it, much more explanation in the audit itself. The auditor did state rather clearly that except for the effect of the OPEB study, that in effect everything that was required, all of the actual that the financial statements present fairly in all aspects, all other aspects, that the financial statements on all material aspects reflect FORA's financial position as of June 30, 2012. So this was reviewed by the Finance Committee. There may be a comment by the chair of the Finance Committee who reviewed this with.
Bill?
Yeah, I would say it was very refreshing to know that we did have a new auditor who was able to delve into some corners perhaps we hadn't looked at before. We came up with a number of recommendations. I think the management response has been very constructive. A couple matters related to both the forensic audit and the annual audit with regard to expense policies, cell phones, and I think laptops is still lurking around, but that's a separate item that's come out. Are leading to constructive approaches. Some of those were discussed at executive committee. I wasn't there for that, but they'll be coming back to us. We have looked at those, and I think it's been a very healthy exercise to go through this. Nobody wants to hear that there are deficiencies. The fact is, in any complex organization with a lot of finances, you always find something you can do better, and I think we've tried to take it in that spirit and adapt and implement the the best practices that we can. So that's where we are.
Thank you, Bill. Any questions by members of the board? Yes, Frank.
151, it has at the top contingent receivables, and it makes reference to 50,000 plus owed by the city of Delray Oaks. And you define contingency receivable as something that's uncertainty as to legal obligation, but in the little paragraph it makes reference to the city acknowledging the owing of this amount. 2 questions. Number 1, is it still a contingent receivable? And secondly, on agenda item 11A, it has the city of Delray Oaks debt appears to be about $694,000. Why isn't that placed in here as a receivable somewhere?
I've got a pain between my shoulder blades right now. No, actually, this was brought to my attention several months ago. The City of Del Rio does not acknowledge the $50,000 debt. We do acknowledge the almost $700,000 debt. We are paying interest on that debt, and we're hoping that within 2 months, if everything goes well in our court case against our previous developer, we'll be able to get a nice cash settlement and put it into the coffers of FORA. But the $50,000 debt, there's never been, as far as we can determine on our side, and I'll have to get with the FORA staff, there's never been any acknowledgement whatsoever that Del Rio owes that amount to FORA. That's sort of the point of contention right now.
Thank you. And as to the $695,000 approximately, is that set forth anywhere in this financial statement? Did I miss it? Or is it supposed to be in there at all?
Yes, it is reflected or classified as a liability or deferred revenue, and it's going to be recognized as a revenue when we receive the payments. Previously, we had the 2 outstanding payments included in receivables and therefore in fund balance, and the auditor suggested removing these obligations because they are long-term, not received within 90 days, into the liability category.
Okay, and one more, if I may, while you're up there, please. Page 109, in the middle, the first bullet, it says, several significant receivables are under collection by the authority. But again, other than this $50,000 and the $4.1 million contingency receivables, are those the 2 plus the Del Rey Oaks that we're talking about significant receivables?
Exactly.
Okay.
There are no others.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Sure. Any other questions by board members? Seeing none, out to the public. Any questions by members of the public? Seeing none, back to the board. I'd entertain a motion, please. Okay, we have a motion to accept the Moss, Levy, and Hartzman Certified Public Accountants Auditor, Fort Ord Reese Authority Fiscal Year 11-12 Annual Financial Report Audit by Mayor Rubio. Do I have a second?
Second.
Who's a second? Okay, I'm sorry. I can't see on the side of my head. We have a motion and a second. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anybody opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much. And over to the Executive Director.
Yes, moving on to item 9C, Chair, if that's appropriate.
Sorry, I forgot one. 9C, confirm 2013 chair appointments to the Fort Ord Reese Authority. I went through and made the appointments for the Finance Committee and the Legislative Committee. The Finance Committee has Bill Kemp demoted to council member. He, of course, is the mayor, so we need to make a change there. Basically, legislative. Yeah, go ahead. I did not take public comment during the audit. My mistake. I would like to open it up for public comment for the audit. We have to make sure we get public comment. Any member of the public have any comments, like to make public comment with regard to the audit? Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Right, and then back to the confirm the 2013 chair appointments. Basically, the Legislative Committee is the Executive Committee. We found over the years in dealing with the FORA staff and all that it makes a lot of sense. Legislative Committee meets periodically to talk about legislation and so forth. Again, it's an offshoot of the Executive Committee. Finance Committee is a lot more special. The folks there were selected based on their expertise and getting a diversity of people on the committee itself. I'd like to thank Mayor Bill Camp. He's been doing this for a while. I asked him if he would continue on. He's a non-land use jurisdiction. He probably works harder here than any other member of the land use jurisdiction themselves, and it's really appreciated. You and your committee do a great work. Those are the folks, in talking with them, they've all volunteered. They're all putting in extra time. Appreciate the work, and hopefully you'll support me on the selections. Any questions, comments by members of the board? Jane, please.
I was going to make a motion, but you probably want to get public comment first.
Thank you very much. I'm on my training wheels. This is my training wheels meeting. Out to the public for public comment with regard to the committees. Okay, back to the board. Jane?
Move approval of
Okay, we
your
have
nominations.
okay, we have a move and approval and a second by Mayor Rubio. Confirm Fort Ord Use Authority Board of Directors Chair Edelin's 2013 appointments. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Motion carries. Now we're off to the Executive Director.
Yes, because of the lateness of the hour, Chair Edelin, I'm going to note that all of the reports that you have are by and large informational, and I do know that the board members have read all of them. I want to highlight just a couple of things. Under the Executive Officer's Travel Report, there's a report there that discusses a number of items that we engaged in a trip that we took to Sacramento, working with Assemblymember Stone's office, with Senator Monning's office. We made a considerable amount of progress on a number of important issues that have to do with Habitat Conservation Plan, with the Veterans Cemetery, and with our ongoing relationship with the California Department of Toxic Substances Control. And then beyond that, I'd like to point out that the Fort Ord Reuse Authority Veterans Issues Advisory Committee, there's an information item that's included that notes who Mayor Edelin has appointed. This Veterans Issues Advisory Committee is intended for a year. The board had voted that it would come back after a year. When you saw this the first time, it was indicated it was an ad hoc committee, but we looked up this kind of appointment, noted that it would be a Brown Act committee, so we've renamed it Veterans Issues Advisory Committee rather than Veterans Issues Ad Hoc Committee. I want to make sure that the board members understand that the first meeting of that group will be fairly soon. Mayor Edelin has made these as the appointments, working with the local veterans organizations. First, the volunteers from the FORA board are Mayor Edelin, Director Moore, Mayor Gunter, and Mayor Pro Tem Ian Oglesby. And then, of course, Colonel Clark or his designee would be a part of the advisory committee. And then you can see James Bogan, Sid Williams, Tom Griffin, and Edith Johnson. I saw today that Tom Griffin was retiring from his post as the Veterans Services Officer. And so I want to point out to the members here that that may be a change in terms of who the appointee is. Chair, that's all I have to highlight.
Thank you very much. Okay, next item. Do we have any items from members they would like to announce?
Mr. Chair,
Jane.
just could I ask a question
Sure.
on, in reading a little point, but I was reading the Administrative Committee minutes, and there two things struck me. One was that at the meeting of Wednesday, January 16th, Jane Haynes asked that a correction be made to the January 2nd minutes, and in the copy that we have, that requested change isn't made, so I'm not sure what the process is for that. And then also on the January 2nd minutes, it says that some materials that were distributed are attached, and they're not attached here. I imagine that's customary, but
They're on the web.
So okay, so when I see attached in minutes, I just know that I can write awfully thick. Okay, good.
And Supervisor Parker, just if you'll note on the bottom of page 137 of 151, the change that Jane had asked for is located there under format. That was, I think, the change that she'd asked for.
No, she asked that basically the base reuse plan words be changed to contradicted state law rather than conflicted with the base reuse plan.
Oh,
So-
we'll double check that with Jane and
Right.
correct.
Thank you.
And any other items from members? Since the 20 minutes are up, there are no other items from members. We are adjourned. Thank you very much.